Monitoring and evaluation is a very important part of any solution. Sometimes it is a part of the judging criteria as well, but even if it's not, I think it's still quite useful and still quite indicative of the robustness of a solution or how comprehensive a solution is. And it's actually very easy to think about monitoring and evaluation, but what it requires is to have a good hold of the context of your case, or if it's an open-ended branding case, then I guess the context of the world or the particular context of the company or the industry that you're working in. So the first question you need to ask yourself in this regard is, how do you track the progress of your campaign? And the reason I say this, and the reason the wording of this question is a bit open-ended, is because it can be anything, right? It can be the number of customers that you've acquired after 2 years. That might be a criteria. It might be the amount of market share that you have if you're working with a competitive market. It might be market expansion, and if you're working with a market expansion case. It might be solving a specific issue with regards to data security if you're working with a technology case that is specifically looking for a business solution to a data security problem. And that might form your KPI, and whatever specifics there are between data security and some business objectives might be your KPI. So KPIs can be very diverse, but it depends a lot on the context. If it's a branding solution on either a awareness problem, then it might be behavioral changes as well. For example, if you're creating an awareness campaign for asking people to not litter, then after 2 years, a decrease in visible garbage within a particular area might be a very relevant KPI, which if you look at it is very specific, but it's very relevant to a particular type of branding. For other types of branding, just the generic increase in sales or just the generic increase in awareness or the number of people reached in and of itself might be a KPI. You can have multiple KPIs and stress on these KPIs to look at how your progress is going. And this adds a lot of value to your solution, because when, say, someone looks at a particular solution and sees that this is mentioned as a KPI, say a very specific KPI is mentioned, they know that the solution is geared towards that, and they know that the solution has thought about that and therefore has included it, and therefore it adds a lot of value into the nuance of the particular solution that we're talking about. Secondly, how does that method of tracking align with your end goal or objective? So all the cases often have an end goal. Even if they don't have an end goal, you need to set an end goal for yourself. And if you have a particular KPI, then that needs to align with the end goal. So if that end goal is increasing market share, for example, then a part of increasing market share might be a just generic increase of sales. And that's how you lead to market an increase in market share. A part of it might be acquisition of customers in a particular target group that has been dominated by a competitor, and that might be a particular KPI that aligns with your end goal of gaining market share. This is obviously an example, but this is a question that might help you construct KPIs that are in line with the end goal or objective that you are aiming for in a particular business. And it's always important to have set objectives and set aims, because otherwise there wouldn't be a structure to your solution, and those KPIs need to align with that so that they are in tandem with whatever you're working towards in the solution. So if your KPIs are good, then they will always point towards the end goal or objective, and that's quite important while presenting any solution, whether it be a branding solution or like a case solution to a very specific problem. It's all the same when it comes to having KPIs. And when you have that, at the end, just mention what KPIs you're looking for. So for example, if it's a particular quantitative number that you mention, sometimes it's not possible to mention quantitative numbers because of the lack of data, whether it's in the case, or even sometimes in reality you don't have a lot of data. So those KPIs don't need to be specific in the sense that you don't need to mention that, oh, I want to increase my sales by 10,000 units because that's the number I came up with through analysis. It might just be that I want significant increase in sales because I don't have enough data to predict the exact number of sales that I want to increase And that's perfectly fine as well, as long as your strategy is pointing towards an increase in sales that is significant for your business. Does not necessarily have to have a number tag to it. It's always good to have a number tag to it, but that number tag has to be justified with some analysis. And if you're unable to do that analysis, it's fine if you don't have a number, but it's not fine to not have a KPI. So KPIs need to be there, KPIs need to be specific, KPIs need to be aligned with your end goal and objectives. KPIs don't always need numbers to be backed up, but if they have numbers, then it's great.